I teach you something, but you don't get it. You know what? It'll be written all over your face. Even if you nod and make noises to pretend that you got it, the truth will eventually come out, and I will know that you didn't get it. All kinds of teaching and learning happens everywhere and all the time without formally trained teachers involved. Some of the things we figure out on our own, but most of our knowledge comes from other people. There's a new guy at a workplace, and the foreman and the fellow employees show him the ropes. The new guy is expected to learn because he's paid to do a job. If he fails to learn, he's fired. When parents teach their kids and it doesn't go too well, they cannot just conclude that their kids are not teachable and fire them. Parents have to persevere and be infinitely patient. Coercion creates frustration and ruins relationships. So here's the example of Dr. Marvin forcing his boy to dive. But let me say this again. It is very obvious whether a child got what was taught or not. Most parents instinctively know what the next step should be. Good learning, yay, celebration, reward, moving to the next challenge. Setback, no breakthrough, back to the drawing board. Let's try things again, maybe a bit differently, maybe a bit more in tune with the kid's learning style. Parents know that if simple tasks have not been mastered, it is pointless to force the learning of more complex things. Today's classroom teachers have a hard time figuring out their professional priorities. What's the way to please an employer, how to deal with difficult parents and their equally difficult kids, and still have a productive school year. The golden rule of teaching is to get the pace right. A good teacher reads the kids and immediately notices if something is not right. There are subtle signs like, just how the kids sit, their facial expressions, the little noises in the classroom. Teacher self-talk should reflect this. Oops, my foot was a little too heavy on the gas pedal. I went too fast and I lost them. Or, I'm not sure they got this word. Maybe I replace it with a simpler one. It's a process of constantly reacting to nonverbal cues and making instant adjustments to keep the kids in the zone. It is a very good feeling when a teacher looks at the kids and knows, they're with me. They're eating out of my hand. When the kids are difficult to read, or the teacher is not sure, he or she ought to probe and verify. Only when concepts and skills are fully established can the class move on. Basic stuff. If you teach anything to a class and you know that the kids are not on board, the only honest and responsible thing to do is to move heaven and earth to rectify the situation and find a pragmatic solution. Now, it's easier said than done, and here is why it is a bit difficult. Kids don't like to feel stupid, and I don't blame them. Parents don't want to know that their kids' school is so-so. School principals don't want to feel useless. Leaders at status quo school boards don't want to admit that they just go with the flow. Teacher unions protect bad teachers, politicians don't like to touch hot potatoes, and various lobby groups prefer to dominate unchecked. So it becomes a complicated mess. Here's a fresh example of a grade 10 English assignment about archetypes in literature. And this is from a prominent high school in the suburbs. The teacher didn't explain the concept of archetypes too well and failed to notice or ignored that the kids had a sketchy understanding. She provided them with incomplete handouts and threw them in deep water. Groups of 5 students divided creation myths into chunks, and they were tasked with finding archetypes in the text, explaining their meaning, and relating them to the overall theme. The written part went into these narrow boxes of a shared document. No examples were provided. Not one kid could do anything intelligible to become a leader and save the others. To make things worse, the written work was not marked, but rather each student got 2 minutes to orally present and explain the archetypes they found. Well, the outcome was not solid learning, but instead a pathetic charade. The kids did their best to scrape something together, and the teacher did her best to pretend that good learning took place. Everybody walked away relatively happy. And of course, at the end of the semester, there were shiny report cards to document the great success. I like to do an honest good job. I like to be useful, contributing to society, getting enthusiastic about the mission, the purpose, the calling, all that good idealist stuff. I have 40 years of teaching experience under my belt, and my mind is relatively fresh. What would happen if I came out of retirement and went back to the classroom? Would I be able to walk on water again and make a difference? The answer depends on how we look at it. Looking at it realistically, the answer is no. Many of the kids would reject me, especially the ones who do nothing and mislead their parents. They would see me as a threat because I know their game. Many parents would turn on me if I delivered bad news. They would shoot the messenger. School administration would force me to fall in line. I would be under the microscope. A delusional parent demands something, I would have to dance the dance. An irate parent phones in and complains about me, I would have to apologize regardless of the truth. These are not absurd and theoretically imaginable things. These things have already happened to me and happened to other teachers and would happen again because the underlying causes of these problems have not changed. The bad elephant is still in the room. Let's face it, I'm not a messiah material. Nobody is interested in my miracles. I'm just a little voice in the cacophony of the world. I know my place, and I'm not depressed. So what is a more optimistic way of looking at teaching kids? I said a lot of good things about faith and hope and how life is worth living. I meant it. The parable of the sower is a good one to consider. I know that some of the seeds I sowed fell into fertile soil. Then there's the parable about the mustard seed. A tiny thing that makes a huge difference. I believe that there are people out there who learned something from me that made a difference in their lives. And precisely these are the people who will make a difference in the life of others. Good is more powerful than the bad elephant.